Back once again with Erika Brown of The Cricket, telling us about all things Manchester by the Sea and Essex. Welcome back once again, Erika.
Hey there, how are ya?
Great.
Good.
Okay, Manchester's coming off a pretty huge event here, celebrating the 375th in the 376th year.
Exactly. There you go. It's the 375 plus one.
Yeah.
The poor 375th committee, of which I'm a member. But the real finale came in the last sort of 10 days, last week really, was sort of the end of 33 months of planning and then execution. And then it was with the parade. We had a big parade, but really before the parade, it was almost like sort of the finale week. So it started off earlier in the week with a incredibly well done by the call out to the Manchester Historical Museum. They had a high tea, which doesn't sound very exciting, I guess, but I thought it was great. It was beautiful at Shark's Mouth, at the Shark's Mouth Estate, which is off of Dana's Beach, basically, which is one beach north of, yes, one beach north of Singing Beach. I'm trying to do the cove. Anyway, and so it was really beautiful in an old estate. It was outdoors to be safe, and really everyone showed up. It was beautiful, well done. And then rolling from that, actually there was an event in between that and the parade, which wasn't technically part of the 375th, but it was rolled into the whole community activity. So it almost kind of got sucked up by the jet stream. And that was the veterans, and I have to say this correct, the Veterans Honor Roll. And it's not a memorial, because I think of it as a memorial out in front of Town Hall. And it is a beautiful new installation, put it in this year. They dedicated it. It's a wall that memorializes all of the veterans living and not living of wars from Manchester. And it was really beautiful. A lot of people showed up. That was on a Saturday morning. And do you know the difference? I mean, I was calling it a memorial. And technically, if you think about it, you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, you say it. Yeah.
Memorial is for dead. It's for the dead.
Right.
And so it's not correct to call it a memorial. So it's an honor roll, and I thought it was really touching. And then from that, we went into the actual parade. The parade was huge. I think the committee thought, well, maybe in September a parade won't be well attended. So they reached out to the Shriners, that has a whole, I call it a parade in a box. Because it is essentially a big community parade, clowns and, vehicles and many things. It's a huge deal, and they did a great job. So it was a good insurance policy if nobody stepped up with floats. Well, guess what? People stepped up with floats. So it was a big deal. And despite the fact that there was an away game in Lynn for the varsity football team, and a lot of people were gone, it didn't stop the crowds from coming out. We actually had a really lovely time. And then also a shout out to the American Legion, and the Masons had a big cookout at the Allegiant Hall afterwards, where you could get like a lobster or steak dinner for like $30. 100% of it went to charity after covering the costs. They raised a lot of money for the Angel Fund. And it was a lot of fun to see everyone in the community come out, really well attended. And it was just almost this relaxed, okay, it's all over, we did a great job kind of vibe. It was great.
Very nice. And 1623 was there. I think we shot some footage, so we're going to be rolling out something nice to commemorate the 375th as well. Good job, Erika. Okay, let's talk about Ginny Thompson.
Oh my God, Ginny Thompson. Okay, Ginny Thompson, Virginia Thompson, retired last week from 27 years as the principal assessor in Manchester. Now you say, well, the assessor, that's our tax bills and that's our whatever. It actually, when she came in, she has had a big impact on a lot of things that people might not tie to Ginny Thompson, but really should be tied to Ginny Thompson. She came in 1995. She immediately kind of almost transformed her department with technology. She really pushed us into the future as a town. And now things like MapGeo. Do you ever use MapGeo?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
MapGeo is a really robust mapping function that is built in with a tremendous amount of data that you can sort of see visually as an overlay. Everything from licenses to water zones, drinking water zones, federal numbers, state numbers, everything. And then of course also deeds, lots, assessments, taxes, all that
That's
stuff.
what we all want to see. Yeah.
all that stuff she brought in, and we have a really robust, lovely sort of thing that's available to anybody to with the click of a mouse. But the other thing she did that I really think is just shows how creative and fantastic she is. She's been and collaborative, by the way. She's been working with the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, and with Sue Brown, who is the planner, and then other organizations and partners. She's been working quietly through grants for the last several years, since 2015, I believe it was, to forensically research widowed deeds and titles of landlocked lands. And she has found, with her team, 190 acres of interior lands in the Western Woods, which are now going to be fused with partners like the MECT lands, and it's going to be a 500-acre network of trails that are open to the public.
Huh.
That's amazing. So these were probably woodlots, Erica? Is that what happened with these?
They're basically woodlots and things like it. I mean, I think one of them, the biggest one, was probably 20 acres or something like that. So they can vary. They're not just small woodlots, which are lots for people to cut wood to be in the winter, right? Isn't that where the woodlot comes from?
Yeah, if you didn't have wood, you weren't going to make it through the winter, so you needed a place to get it.
Yeah, so she's been doing that very quietly on the side. It's not exactly what you think of as an assessor's job. She got a really good, State House commendation that Brad Hill brought down and presented to her in person before he made it a priority before he was going off to the Gaming Commission, which is where he's leaving his post to go to. And then also, one thing that was funny, she retired on a Thursday, September 30th, right? They had a party for her at Town Hall. It also happened to be her birthday. So she retired on her birthday. And then my favorite thing was, it's also the last day of the financial quarter. Isn't that
beautiful?
That's great. That's great.
All right, Erica, let's go from the woods to the water's edge now. What is going on with CONCOM?
I love that segue. I love it. We talked about this in brief a while ago because this is connected to something that really caught my attention in the CONCOM meeting 2 months ago, or 2 times ago. So it was probably about 6 weeks ago now. They passed this at the end of a meeting. It was very quick, and they passed a change in the local regulation to include the following language: that their regulatory purview would now include, this is in the regulations, land underwater, specifically the ocean, period, end quote.
Yeah, that's a lot of purview. Right?
A lot of land.
Like all the way to Portugal?
As I like to say, isn't a land underwater, isn't that the ultimate wetland?
Right.
Yeah. The flood zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ultimate flood zone.
Yeah.
And now it's CONCOM land.
Here's the thing, and it's easy to make a joke, but and the CONCOM is not something that's watched. People don't, they're not battering down the doors to attend a CONCOM meeting. Let's face it. It's very, very specific, but it's a quasi-judicial board, so it is very important. And I called up Chris Bertoni right afterwards. She's she's the CONCOM executive director, essentially. She's the staff town person who manages the Conservation Commission business. And I said to her, what is going on with that? And does this have to do with the eelgrass issue? Answer, yes. And that was a big controversy several years back off of Long Beach and Sand Dollar Cove, because of recreational boaters were anchoring out there. And the residents of Smith's Point said, leaned into the protection of eelgrass, which had the unintended or intended consequence of actually getting those boaters out of their view. But in all seriousness, that's what caught my attention. I thought, okay, is this the eelgrass issue? Which it is, but it's different. And it's also something I said, well, land underwater. And she said, listen, Erica, that's already in the State Wetlands Protection Act. So it's just a mirroring of the purview that we already had, right? So I sat down and I had a really long talk with Henry Ottinger, who is the lead on this, on the CONCOM. He's a biologist and a science teacher and a PhD, and he's been kind of leaning into this. And so we talked about it, and here's what the truth is. And he said, listen, this is less a regulatory move and more of a highlighter. It's like we took a highlighter and put eelgrass. We want people to really focus on eelgrass. Eelgrass is a very, very important It's really overperforms on carbon sequestration. That's a word, huh?
Oh,
In other words, it's very good for global warming. It absorbs CO2. And
Mm.
so it needs to be protected. It already kind of is protected at the state level with the DEP, with Bion Pike, and you can't anchor in there and you can't do those things. So it just tripped a good conversation. And here's the good conversation. What is the role of the Concom when you go off the coast? Because once you are off the coast and into the water, you run into a huge series of regulatory players. They're local, they're state, they're federal, and they govern commercial fishing. Like what, you know, if you're talking about land underwater, what about lobster traps? What about shellfishing? What about the shellfish warden? Does the shellfish warden now report to the Concom? Answer, absolutely not. What does this have to do with Bion Pike, who they're planning on coordinating with, but they did not really consult him before this, which was interesting. And then public safety gets into environment, civil engineering, all sorts of things. So you get the local police a little bit involved. Bion Pike is sort of a hub in the whole thing. But it's very interesting. You know, you've got NOAA, you've got the coastal zone management, the state DEP is sort of the big player. You've got the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers when you come to dredging and things like that. Dredging is clearly something that impacts land underwater, specifically the ocean. So we did a primer on who rules the waters of Manchester, who rules the local waters, and what players do they have. Whether it's the 32 commercial fishing licenses that we have a very robust commercial fishing people. People don't think that, but we do. And then, you know, when it comes to eelgrass, what is the opportunity for protecting eelgrass? Moorings, moving moorings or mooring fields. Mooring fields are, the Concom is involved, but moving moorings are not involved. So it's kind of it was an interesting exercise to go into. I found it fascinating. Big fun fact, here's my favorite fun fact that I learned. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, is also involved. You know how?
Through, wait, I was going to say through NOAA, but that's the Department of Commerce. What? How?
It's completely separate, and ironically, it has to do with Sand Dollar Cove in Long Beach, which was where we started, right? Did you know that the water off of Sand Dollar Cove in Long Beach is actually the FAA's designated area for the landing of seaplanes?
is it now?
It's a landing strip. It's technically a landing strip.
Oh.
So you can land your helicopter there too?
No, it's
No, just seaplanes.
just floating devices, and that's it. We
But
are.
Erica, did this ever get concretized, or is this a soft rule about, you know, their purview is now land underwater, including ocean? Is anything, you know, is there a line at this point drawn on legally by the Concom?
No, there's not a legal land. I mean, what we were told, and this isn't the law. This is what we were told, right? What we were told is this really is about eelgrass. Eelgrass doesn't grow any deeper than 18 to 20 feet. There's really two zones in Manchester where it has to do with that Sand Dollar Cove area, and then what's called Area 7, which is the area past the yacht club, but before, and continuing to West Beach in Beverly Farms. So really, we're just talking about those two areas. That's what we were told. But if you look at the law, which is what you asked me, right? The law,
Yeah.
The law covers, and this got me wide-eyed. The law says the town line, which is a mile out, or 80-foot depth. That's what Henry Ottinger said to me, 80-foot depth. I thought it was 8. And I was asking about whether it was low water mark and what 80.
Yeah.
He said 80, which 80 takes you way out, like beyond a mile, I think.
I would think so too.
Absolutely. Maybe not consistently, but wow, that's incredible.
That's what you asked. And
yeah, right.
But in terms of the practical application here, the Concom has no intention of getting involved with regulation of anything outside of just raising the awareness of eelgrass and getting involved if there is an eelgrass issue. And they're probably going to plant some eelgrass. That's my guess.
As well they should. And get rid of the green crabs.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff as always, Erica. Thanks for your time.
All righty. Thanks, guys. See you next week.